I married Lisa, believing she was my soulmate. For 6 years, we shared a stable, if not extraordinary, happiness. We had 3 children, 2 of them twins, who became the center of our world. Together, we built our lives in a quiet suburban neighborhood, where the streets were peaceful and the lawns were neatly trimmed. I remember those early days with fondness. The stillness of suburban nights made me feel safe, as if we were in a protective bubble where nothing bad could happen. After work, we would settle in, our home filled with laughter. The twins would be resting in their cribs, while our eldest child tried to toddle around the living room. Often, when I arrived home, Lisa's warm smile would greet me in the hallway. She would wrap me in a hug, playfully complain about diapers or dinner, and for a long time, everything seemed perfect. So perfect that I never imagined how quickly it could all fall apart. It all began last year with a single decision Lisa made without consulting me, a choice that shattered our marriage and left behind only betrayal, fury, and an overwhelming desire for retribution. If someone had told me back then that Lisa's loyalty was so fragile, I would call them a liar. But the truth is, loyalty can disappear faster than you'd ever expect when someone decides their spouse no longer matters. One night, she dropped a bombshell. Her twin sister, Sarah, and Sarah's husband, Kevin, wanted a baby. They had struggled for years, and after numerous failed attempts, their doctor suggested surrogacy. Lisa had decided to be their surrogate. But what truly broke me wasn't just the idea itself. It was the fact that she had never bothered to discuss it with me beforehand. She had already started the process behind my back. I remember the moment vividly, as if it was etched in my mind. We were sitting together on the couch, physically close, yet mentally worlds apart. A late-night comedy show flickered on the screen, all but forgotten. Lisa glanced at me, phone in hand, and spoke almost casually. "Grant, there's something I've decided to do." The casual tone of her voice set off alarm bells in my head. Lisa only spoke like that when she had a big announcement, something she had already made up her mind about, regardless of my opinion. My stomach tightened. I muted the TV and asked, "What's going on?" "You look serious." She tucked a dark strand of hair behind her ear and said, "I'm going to be Sarah's surrogate." I blinked, taken aback. "What do you mean?" Lisa met my gaze, her voice steady. "Sarah can't have a baby. She's been through multiple IVF cycles, and nothing has worked. The doctor suggested surrogacy, and since Sarah and I have the same DNA, I'm practically the perfect candidate. I've already spoken to the clinic." She said it so matter-of-factly that, for a moment, I thought she was joking. But when I saw no hint of a smile, my heart started pounding. "You've already—" I swallowed hard. "Lisa, are you telling me you're carrying Kevin's child?" She exhaled. "It's Sarah and Kevin's child. It would be their embryo. Genetically, I'm just a carrier." I clenched my jaw. "And when exactly did you decide this without telling me?" She lifted her chin. "I knew you'd freak out. I made this decision because Sarah's my twin, and I can't stand seeing her miserable. Kevin and I talked about it extensively, and I'm certain it's what I want to do." I felt a surge of anger in my gut. "Kevin and you talked about it extensively," I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "That's great. Meanwhile, I'm your husband, and I find out last. Do you have any idea how that makes me feel?" Her eyes flashed with frustration. "Grant, I'm sorry, but it's my body. I'm doing this, with or without your approval. I hoped you'd support me, and yes, I should have told you sooner. But I knew you'd try to stop me, and this is too important." For a moment, I was too furious to speak, my throat tight with emotion. "So that's it? You expect me to just accept that my wife is carrying another man's child under our roof? And you think I'll just smile and go along with it?" Lisa crossed her arms and set down her phone. "Call it what you want, but this is happening. Sarah and Kevin are counting on me. If you really love me, you'll respect that." A cold sense of calm settled over me, far more terrifying than outright rage. "Respect," I repeated, my voice dangerously low. "You don't show respect by blindsiding your husband with a decision that impacts our marriage. You're not just making choices about your body. You're making choices about our family." She stood, fists clenched. "Stop acting like a victim. Sarah's family too, and I'm helping her. If you can't see that, then maybe I've overestimated you all these years. Her words sent me over the edge. Overestimated me? I scoffed. Lisa, if you go through with this, it's going to destroy us. She moved past me, her shoulders rigid. Then maybe we're not as strong as I thought. I stood there, my heart pounding so hard I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. I tried to control my breathing, but the weight of her betrayal crushed me. The house, once warm and safe, now felt suffocating. I already knew everything had changed. The following days were tense. Lisa openly discussed doctor's appointments, fertility treatments, and implantation schedules as if she were talking about grocery shopping rather than a life-altering decision. Every word she spoke was a reminder that she had made her choice. Without me, 2 nights after she first told me, I came home to find a box from the fertility clinic in our fridge. Vials of medication, syringes, and instructions were scattered across the kitchen table. Lisa sat flipping through a thick packet of documents. What is all this? I asked sharply, staring at the medical paraphernalia. She barely glanced up. Hormone treatments. I need to start them so my body will be ready for the embryo transfer. The clinic sent them earlier than expected. I stared at her in disbelief. And you didn't think this warranted a discussion? She shrugged. I already told you, we're past discussions. I'm moving forward. My voice was tight with restrained anger. You're ignoring my feelings. You don't care that you're pushing me away, do you? She rolled her eyes. Stop being dramatic. It's just 9 months. I hand the baby over to Sarah, and that's it. It's not like I'm replacing our children. This is for my sister. I clench my fists. You can justify it however you want. But if you go through with this, I promise you, I'm not staying in this marriage. She looked up, her gaze unwavering. Grant, if your pride can't handle my decision, you're free to leave. My face burned with fury. Pride? This isn't about pride. It's about partnership. You blindsided me and planned this with Kevin. So what if I talk to Kevin? She snapped. He's the father of the embryo. He needed to be part of the discussion. I let out a bitter laugh. And I'm your husband, the man you vowed to share your life with. Does that mean nothing now? She picked up the papers again, dismissing me entirely. We're done here, Grant. I stood there, my chest aching. She didn't even see the damage she had caused. My fingers twitched with the urge to tear the fertility papers apart, but I knew that would only make me look insane. So instead, I turned on my heel, left her with her new project, and tried to steady my breathing. That night, lying awake in bed, I made a silent decision. If Lisa insisted on doing this alone, then so be it. I would file for divorce because no matter how I twisted it, our marriage was over. I couldn't bear to witness her belly swell with Kevin's child. When Lisa discovered I had consulted an attorney, she stormed into the living room, where I was assisting our eldest child with homework. Fury radiated off her as she hissed, "How dare you?" Careful not to startle our child, who was engrossed in coloring. I set down the crayon, told my kid to stay put, and steered Lisa into the hallway. "Lower your voice," I warned. "I don't want the kids overhearing our arguments." She glowered at me. "So you thought it was acceptable to run to a lawyer and initiate divorce proceedings?" A burning sensation crept into my chest. "I told you what would happen if you went forward without me, and you did it anyway. I'm done being disregarded." Tears welled in her eyes, not of sorrow, but frustration. "Grant, we can fix this. You just need to accept that I'm doing this, and then we can move on." I lifted a hand. "No, you're not listening. There is no fixing this. You went behind my back, used our finances, and signed up for surrogacy as if our marriage was an afterthought to your sister's child. Did you really expect me to just shrug it off and say, 'Sure, honey, that's great'?" Her lips trembled. "I didn't think it would lead to divorce. God, you're so cold." I let out a short, bitter laugh. "Maybe I am now, but I wasn't when you made that decision. That's what turned me this way." She opened her mouth as if to argue, but then clamped it shut. Too furious to form words, she finally spun on her heel and stomped upstairs. I stood there, my heart hammering. wishing I could convince myself this was all just a nightmare. In our state, a 1-year separation was required before divorce could be finalized. Lisa was well aware of this, and for that year, we would be living under the same roof, at least for a while. She refused to move out, claiming she had nowhere else to go, that she needed bed rest at times, and that the kids deserved a stable home. I didn't want to disrupt my children's lives either, so I endured her presence, though endured was putting it mildly. She occupied the guest room or sometimes the living room couch, while I took the master bedroom. We moved like strangers, sharing space yet barely speaking. The kids noticed, of course, asking why Mom and Dad no longer sat together at dinner. We tried to maintain a facade of civility in front of them, but tension seeped into every corner of the house. Then one weekend, Lisa's twin sister, Sarah, showed up with Kevin in tow. I found him in the living room, flipping through a glossy catalog of baby strollers as if they owned the place. The kids were playing outside, so I had no reason to mask my irritation. Kevin rose awkwardly from my recliner when he saw me. "Gran, hey," he said, shifting uneasily. "We were just, planning for the baby." Lisa rubbed her belly, which had just begun to show. "Kevin and Sarah want to make sure we're prepared. I need certain things in the house to be comfortable." I stared at her. Why can't Kevin buy all that for his own home, since that's where the baby will eventually live? Kevin let out a nervous chuckle. Well, we thought it'd be good to have supplies here for while Lisa's carrying. I cut him off. "Don't you dare talk about baby supplies in my house, like it's your personal nursery." Lisa's cheeks flushed. "You're being unreasonable. Do you expect me to stand for hours in their home if I'm nauseated or need rest? I live here, Grant." I clenched my jaw. "Yes, you do. But maybe Kevin and Sarah should show some respect and not treat this house like their baby planning headquarters." Kevin shot a glance at Sarah, who stood behind the couch, arms crossed. Sarah's icy gaze met mine. "Grant, it's not like we enjoy being here," she said, her tone cutting. "We're just trying to make this as easy for Lisa as possible." Rage flared hot. "Let me guess. You expect me to go along with it? Maybe rub Lisa's feet, support her pregnancy cravings. All for a baby that isn't mine." Sarah threw up her hands. "For God's sake, we're family. This shouldn't be about mine or yours. It's about helping each other." I narrowed my eyes. It stopped being about family when you two roped Lisa into this behind my back. Kevin let out a frustrated sigh. "Look, man, I get that this is awkward." I snapped. "Awkward doesn't even begin to cover it. But if you're so concerned about Lisa, then set up a comfortable space in your house. Buy everything from that catalog. Just don't do it here. And if you keep showing up unannounced, we're going to have a serious problem." Lisa stood, outraged. "You can't ban them from the house. This is my home, too." I turned on her. "Maybe you should have thought about that before deciding to share your pregnancy with them instead of your husband." We glared at each other until Sarah grabbed Kevin's arm. "Let's go," she said, her voice tight with fury. "We don't need this." They stormed out. Lisa whipped around, jabbing a finger at me. "You're acting like a child. I hope you realize you're alienating our kids' aunt and uncle." I shrugged. "I'd rather alienate them than let them waltz and like my marriage doesn't matter." She stomped away, leaving me with the roiling anger that had become my constant companion. I unlatched the door, arms crossed. "Ask Kevin or Sarah," I stated coolly. "They're the reason you're pregnant." Her eyes shimmered with tears, but I caught the flicker of fury beneath them. "I just spent hours at the hospital for some checkups." "I'm drained," she murmured. "I'm still your wife, whether you like it or not." I let out a dry chuckle. "Not for much longer, and certainly not in spirit. You made that crystal clear." She exhaled a shuddering breath, then spun on her heel, lugging her bags inside alone. A couple of cans tumbled out, rolling onto the porch, but I didn't budge. She ended up scraping her forearm, trying to wrestle everything through the door in one go. Panting, she placed the groceries on the kitchen table and shot me a glare. "You can't keep punishing me like this," she seethed. I arched an eyebrow. "I'm not punishing you. I'm just refusing to play the devoted husband role you discarded." She placed a trembling hand on her belly, tears streaking down her face. "When this baby is born, you'll regret being this heartless." I laughed, a sound void of warmth. "Believe me, I won't, because you'll be gone and so will this child." She inhaled sharply, as if I had physically struck her, then stormed off into the guest room, leaving the house feeling eerily silent despite the tension still crackling in the air. I exhaled slowly, wondering if I had gone too far. But whenever sympathy threatened to weaken my resolve, I reminded myself she made a unilateral choice that spat in the face of our marriage. My anger remained steadfast. When Lisa unexpectedly went into labor around the 8th month, it was just past midnight. I woke to hear soft whimpers in the hallway, followed by frantic pounding on my bedroom door. "Grant!" she cried, her voice quivering in agony. My water broke. "Oh, God, the contractions are coming. Please help me." I swung open the door to find her face twisted in pain, hands braced against her swollen belly, sweat-drenched hair clinging to her forehead. For a fleeting moment, a memory surfaced, helping her through labor with our own children. But bitterness swiftly crushed it. "I'm not taking you to the hospital," I said icily. "That's Kevin's responsibility." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "Kevin's not answering. Sarah's phone is going straight to voicemail," she gasped. I need to get to the hospital now." I shrugged, stepping back. "Call an ambulance." Another contraction ripped through her, and she clutched the doorframe, her breath hitching. "Grant, please," she pleaded. "You can't just leave me like this." I locked eyes with her, expression unyielding. "Watch me." She stumbled back, tears cascading down her cheeks. "Why, you're heartless," she choked out. I gave a slow, indifferent nod. "That's what happens when you disregard your spouse's feelings. Good luck with the baby." With that, I shut the door. I heard her fumbling in the hallway, presumably calling 911. 15 minutes later, flashing red and blue lights painted my window as paramedics arrived. I listened as they whisked her away. For the briefest instant, guilt gnawed at me, but I shoved it down. She had chosen to disregard me. Why should I rush to her side for a child that wasn't mine? The next morning, my phone was flooded with calls. Lisa's mother left shrieking voicemails, berating me for abandoning her daughter during labor. I deleted them without listening past the first few words. She wanted a baby for her sister? Then let her lean on her sister's family. Lisa and the baby remained in the hospital for several days. The newborn, a girl, was premature but stable. Sarah had her own health issues, leaving Kevin stretched thin, bouncing between 2 hospital rooms. Meanwhile, I continued my life as usual, dropping our kids off at school, going to work, cooking dinner. When Lisa's mother called to inform me that Lisa would be coming home soon, I simply said, "That's her choice," and hung up. I was in the living room, reading, when Lisa finally returned. She looked pale, drained, carrying the newborn in a portable car seat. With a weary sigh, she set the carrier down and collapsed onto the couch. The baby stirred, letting out a soft whimper. I eyed the infant, this tiny, pink-skinned reminder of the surrogacy that had shattered my marriage. "So," I said, my tone clipped, "why are you here with a baby? Shouldn't it be with Sarah?" Lisa closed her eyes, exhaustion lining her features. "Sarah's still in the hospital, recovering from complications. Kevin's overwhelmed. They asked me to keep the baby here for a few weeks." I scoffed. "They asked you volunteered?" She leveled a glare at me. "Is there a difference? I can't abandon her. She's helpless." "You should have thought about that before deciding to be a surrogate," I said coldly. "But let's be clear, I won't be lifting a finger. If you're too exhausted to deal with the crying, that's your problem." She rubbed her forehead, a single tear slipping down her cheek. "Have you always been this cruel, or did I push you into it?" she whispered, more to herself than to me. "That's a question for you to ponder at night when the baby is screaming," I replied flatly. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have real children to feed." She flinched as though I had slapped her, but she said nothing as I walked away. For the next month, our nights were filled with the baby's piercing wails. Lisa staggered around, half asleep, trying to warm bottles. She approached me one night, dark circles under her eyes, desperation in her gaze. Please, she murmured, tears dripping onto the bottle in her hands. I just need half an hour to lie down. The baby's been crying for hours. I met her gaze, unwavering. Call Kevin or your mother. She let out a strangled sob and turned away, the baby's cries echoing down the hallway. I felt a flicker of pity for the child, not for Lisa. The baby had done nothing wrong. But this was Lisa's mess, not mine. I refused to let her escape the consequences. Lisa's parents visited frequently, hurling accusations at me. Monster, coward, unfit husband. Lisa's father even cornered me in the kitchen one day. Lisa is postpartum, he growled. She needs rest. You can't just abandon her. I held his gaze, expression cold. She should have thought of that before disregarding my boundaries. Let Kevin handle the baby. Let your family handle it. Not my baby, not my problem. He stormed off, cursing under his breath. The divorce process dragged on, but it moved forward. My lawyer laid out everything. Lisa's secret surrogacy, the way she funneled money from our joint account to cover expenses, even forging my signature at times. The judge did not look kindly on forgery. Meanwhile, Lisa's lawyer painted me as a cruel man who abandoned his pregnant wife. But since the baby wasn't mine, and Lisa had hidden her surrogacy plans, her argument held no weight. Lisa's twin sister and Kevin, silent, probably relieved they weren't financially responsible for Lisa's reckless decisions. As the final court hearing approached, Lisa grew more desperate. 2 weeks before the date, she confronted me in the living room, the baby dozing in a bassinet beside her. I need financial help, she said bluntly. I barely looked up from my laptop. For what? She hesitated, then squared her shoulders. My doctor says I need to focus on postpartum recovery. I can't get a job right away. I shut my laptop slowly. You're not my responsibility anymore, Lisa. Her lips pressed into a thin line. I'm still the mother of your children, she snapped, and I'll pay child support for them. But I'm not giving you spousal support. Her voice trembled. You don't care that I'm struggling? I stared at her. You made this bed, Lisa. Lie in it.